Yo, I've never seen a 5-pound like that, bro. That's tight.
Hey, what's going on, everybody of YouTube? Kennedy Daily here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a 5-pound from scratch. If you guys are wondering what the 5-pound looks like, here you go. It's your regular old 5-panel with the buckle on the back, all the stitches, and then on the inside you got your sweatband, the stuff that covers your seam, and all the good stuff that's on original 5-pound. So that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do today. So I had to keep the intro really short and simple just because this tutorial is going to be really long and the process is actually really long. But anyways guys, putting all that aside, let's get straight into the tutorial.
Here's an overview of all the stuff that you're going to need for this tutorial. There's actually a lot. For the materials, you're going to need at least a yard or half a yard of fabric. You're going to need some soft fabric for the sweatband / bias strip. And you're going to need some felt for the sweatband. And then if you want to make a brim from scratch, I highly recommend going to your local Home Depot and getting some plastic. And for the back piece, you can use a snap or you can get a buckle from Joann's. Either one will work for this tutorial. For the tools, you're going to need a pen, you're going to need some standard cutting tools, you're going to need a magnetic sewing guide to do brim lines. The next thing you're going to need is maybe a seam ripper. It's not really necessary. You're going to need some pins. You're also going to need an iron, and the last tool you're going to need is a ruler. The last thing you're going to need is the 5-panel template, which you can download and print out. Just check out my video description, and that's pretty much the last thing you're going to need to start this tutorial. To start off the tutorial, we're going to be outlining every single piece of the 5-panel, so grab your template and a pen, turn your fabric onto its backside, and then start tracing the templates. I really recommend taking your time on this because you want the outline to be as accurate as possible, just simply because if it's not, it's gonna end up really funky and you don't want to deal with excess fabric on your 5-panel at all. So take your time on this. Make sure to have your outlines bold and like visible, because if it's not visible, then it's kind of pointless and you're gonna cut out some funky shape. But after that, you want to cut each piece into like squares, like how I'm doing on the video right now, just because it's just gonna make it easier to do the next step. So just do that so it's like individual squares for each shape. Next, we're gonna be creating the actual outline of the 5-panel piece, and you want to measure about 1 centimeter from the outline in, and then you want to connect the dots. So basically what I did, I made dots in every corner 1 centimeter from the outline, and then I connected the dots using dashes. This is where we're going to be sewing the two pieces together, and it's just like a good reference, because just doing it freeballing it is just the hardest thing to do. So you might as well do this. It's not really necessary to do, but it just makes things a lot easier in terms of getting things to be very even. So basically do dots in every corner, but before you do you put down the dots, measure out 1 centimeter from the actual outline, and then you put the dots, and then you put the dashes. But you want to repeat this for every single piece. So just take your time on this and don't rush this part, because if you do rush this part, you're gonna still end up with a funky shape 5-panel thing out of space. You know, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Just take your time on this part, but once you're done with all the pieces, it should look like this. Next, we're going to be cutting out every single piece for the 5-panel, so grab your rotary cutter or pair of scissors and start cutting along the outline, not the inside dashed lines, the outline of the actual piece. So just don't get that mixed up. I'm not cutting the dashed lines. But anyways, you want to do this for every single piece of the 5-panel. Once you're done with a couple of the pieces, it should look something like this. Next, we're going to cut out a bias strip. A bias strip basically covers the extra fabric that's left behind after sewing two pieces together. And the measurement for the bias strip that you want to cut is 40 inches by 1.5, so 40 inches lengthwise, 1.5 inches width. Next, we're going to be sewing down the raw edges of the bias strip, and the way you do that is you just fold it onto the back side towards the middle. You want to fold it halfway and then you want to sew it down. Always remember to start and end with a back stitch. Once you finish one side, you want to do the same thing for the other side, so fold it towards the middle and then you want to put it into your sewing machine and start and end with the back stitch till you reach the very end. After you finish both sides, so the left and the right side, take out your sewing machine and it should look something like this. If you don't have something like this, you might want to go back and cut out another strip and then do the same thing. Next, we're going to be sewing the two top pieces of the 5 panel, so grab the left and right side. Make sure before you do this part to put it over each other and make sure they're about the same shape and size. But if you got that all squared away, you want to put the fabrics exactly like this, so face one up, face one down, put them on top of each other. That sounds pretty crazy, but anyways, go grab your pins and then you want to start pinning the top part of the two pieces. Basically, you don't want to pin anywhere else, just simply because we're only sewing the top part or this part of the two pieces. Once you're done with all your pinning, it should look something like this. Now you want to take it to your sewing machine and sew along the dashed lines that we made earlier. Remember to always start and end with your back stitch and take your time as always. Once you reach the end, take it out of your sewing machine, make sure everything is nice and secure. You should have some extra fabric which is in between the two pieces that we sewed together, and you kind of want to open that up, and you want to also grab an iron and iron that piece, that little area down, because we're gonna put the bias strip over this. This is the reason why we made the bias strip. It's just to cover over this piece, this area. So after you've cut out a bias strip and you figured out where you want to put it, you want to sew on the bias strip over that area. This is what creates the two lines that you see on the top of your 5 panel. So first you want to start on the left side and then you want to go along and do the right side. Remember to start and end with a back stitch, and also take your time on this because you can accidentally sew an extra over some fabric and it makes a huge dent in your top of your 5 panel, and you don't want that to happen. But as you can see there, I finished one side and I flipped the whole thing over to do the other side. Once you're done sewing both sides of the bias strip, you can take it out and you can see the two lines that you guys probably would see on a regular 5 panel, and that's basically how these are made. Just because they want to cover the excess fabric that's left after sewing two pieces together. Next, we're going to be sewing the front panel of the 5 panels, so just place it face down onto the top part of the 5 panel Make sure it's nice and aligned. Grab your pins and start pinning the two pieces together. As always, it doesn't really matter if you do this, but it does make it easier when you go out to sew. It should look like this when it's done. Then take it to your sewing machine, do your regular straight stitch. Remember to be only sewing along the dashed lines. Now you guys are probably wondering what's so important about these dashed lines. It actually creates that gap or that extra fabric to appear, because we need that extra fabric to give us a guidance on where to put our bias strip. Make sure everything is nice and secure. Then afterwards, you want to repeat the same process. You want to open up that area where the two pieces are stitched together, and then you want to get your bias strip, and you want to measure how long you want to make the bias strip. I don't know what I was really doing here. I guess I was just playing around with the bias strip. After you find a really good length, you want to cut off the end, take it to your sewing machine, then straight stitch the left side of the bias strip. After that, you want to do the right side as well. Now you want to kind of take your time when you're sewing, because you want the lines to be as straight as possible, and this only can be obtained by sewing really slow. In this video clip you see me doing it fast, but in reality it took me like 20 minutes to just do this simple bias strip. After you sew on the bias strip, make sure everything is nice and tight, and it should look something like a dog. Next thing we're going to do is sew the side piece of the 5 panel to the body of the 5 panel. So grab your piece, face it face down onto the body as you've been doing for all the other pieces. Grab a pin and only pin the corners together, simply because sewing a curve to a straight edge piece is actually really hard. So you want to take your time on this, and I did not fast forward this clip on purpose, simply because I know a lot of you guys are new sewers. So when you do a curve, as you approach, as your sewing machine approaches the curve or whatever, you want to make sure the curve is aligned with the straight edge piece. So as you can see there, I keep pushing the curved part onto the straight edge of the 5 panel, and I know it's confusing. I might have to come out with a separate tutorial just for this. If you guys do need that tutorial, let me know in the comment section below. But it does take some time to practice, but that's basically how you do the side. Always remember to pull on the two pieces that you sew together, just to make sure that they're actually sewn together and not falsely sewn together. But as always, after you finish the side and everything is all good, remember to get an iron down the open part, grab your bias strip, and then sew on the bias strip to the side. Now you want to repeat this for the other side as well. I only did one side in the video simply because my camera died after this part. Getting back to sewing the bias strip, notice that I am pulling the fabric outwards like how you would crack open some watermelon, just because you want your fabric to be evened out. You don't want it to be layered, because you might accidentally sew over a part that you don't want. So you want to pull out your fabric as you sew. But once you're done with both sides, it should create the form of a 5 panel. If not, you might need to go back and start over. If you sewn everything correctly, you're going to notice that the dashed line that we made earlier actually goes all the way around the 5 panel. And what you want to do with that dashed line is you want to fold over there. That's how much you're going to be folding over. And then you want to take that folded area around the whole 5 panel and sew that down, just to make the 5 panel look a little bit more professional. Remember to start and end with the back stitch, and it should look like this all the way around. You're gonna have a nice clean edge to your whole 5 panel. But take your time on it as always. This is why the dashed lines are so important. Next, we're going to make a brim from scratch. Now if you already have a brim or a replacement brim just laying around, you can just skip this part. But for those who want to make a brim from scratch, basically you want to take the brim template and put it over some plastic or cardboard. Both will work. And then you want to cut out the piece that you outlined with the brim template. You want to make sure that your cutting is on point, so take your time, and it should end up looking something like this. Next, we're going to cut out the fabric that we're going to be using for the brim, and the way we do that is we cut a square around the brim, and then you want to take the first square and you want to make a second square. This is for the bottom part of the brim, and then you want to make an outline by placing the brim over the fabric. Take your time, make sure the outline is bold. After you're done with that, you want to take one of your pieces, so probably the piece that you didn't make the outline on, make that face up, and make the fabric that you did put the outline on face down. The next part is totally optional. I kind of put it in for those who are beginner sewers, but it just keeps the two fabrics together, so when you sew the outline, the two fabrics won't slip and slide and make things worse. Next, you want to sew the outline that you made earlier, so take the fabric to the sewing machine and sew along the outline. Take your time and start and end with a back stitch because it's very important in this part. After you finish sewing the outline, you can just cut all the excess fabric on the outside of the outline. Next, we're going to insert the brim into the fabric, and the way we do that is we turn the fabric right side up, push it so everything is even on every side. Then you want to grab your pins and start pinning the bottom of the brim so it keeps the fabric in place, or the brim in place, while we sew the bottom of the brim just to close it. So it should look something like this. The pins should be like that, and it should be nice and tight. Take it to your sewing machine and start closing the brim by sewing along the pinned areas that you put earlier. Once you're done, it should look something like this. Make sure everything is nice and tight and there's no fabric just running around. Then you want to cut off the fabric off the bottom of the brim. There you go, and it should look something like that. Next, we're going to do brim lines, and the way we do that is we grab our magnetic sewing guide, put it to about 1 centimeter away from the brim, and then you just put your brim right into the sewing machine. Run your brim along the magnetic sewing guide. Use it as a wall to guide you around the brim, and that's basically how you do brim lines if you guys haven't figured it out yet. The number of brim lines actually is up to you. It doesn't matter how much there is. You can actually just put one if you want to, but it should look like this when you're done. Next, we're going to be sewing the crown of the hat, which is the body of the 5 panel, to the brim. And the way we do that is you kind of want to center it, and then take your pins and pin the key points, which is the right side where the end of the brim is, the middle of the brim, so you want to sew the two pieces together, and then the left side. It should look something like this when you're done, and then you want to take it to your sewing machine and just do your regular straight stitch along the top part, or the area that the brim and the crown meet. Take your time on this because you don't want it to look all funky. Next, we're going to be doing the sweatband. So grab your felt, and you want to cut out a 30 by 2. So 30 inches in length, and width is about 2 inches. Next, we're going to be cutting out a fabric that will cover the felt. So 30 by 4 is a good measurement to start with. You can actually get bigger or get closer to the actual measurement of the felt. And then after you've cut it out and have the felt over the fabric, you want to fold over the raw edges, and then you want to pin them down. This just makes it easier for you to sew later, or sew the raw edges down. So take it to your sewing machine after you pin down all the areas, or if you didn't pin it down, that's fine too. You can just fold it over, put it in your sewing machine, and do your straight stitch all the way to the very end. There we go, straight stitch. Once you finish one of the sides, go ahead and do the other side. So just fold over and sew down with a straight stitch. Remember to always start and end with a back stitch. I know I say this like 500 times in this video, but it is a good thing to do. Like, you want it to be nice and secure. But once you finish both sides, take out your sewing machine, check out your new sweatband. Next, we're going to be sewing the sweatband onto the 5 panel, and the first thing you want to do is fold over the edge. As you see there, I folded it over, and align it with the end of the 5 panel, so the area where you would usually put a snap or a buckle. and then you want to just wrap it all the way around your 5 panel, and then you just want to sew around your 5 panel. So just do your straight stitch. Take your time on this part because this part is very easy, but you can very easily mess up as well. After you got your sweatband sewn in, you want to push it in like how I'm doing right now, just because your sweatband has to kind of mold into a certain shape. So keep doing this till it stays in place. As you can see, we're on our last step, which is the sewing in the buckle, and it's very simple. At the very end of the sweatband, you can see that it's open for you to insert the buckle parts. So you just want to open that part, insert your buckle, take it to your sewing machine, and just do a straight stitch to keep the buckle in place. You gotta do a back stitch for this because you want the buckle to be secure and you don't want it to fall off, like when you're out biking or wrestling a bear or something crazy like that. So you want to always do a back stitch when you're doing something like this. But once you're done with that, you're done with your new 5 panel, custom 5 panel, whatever you want to do. You can put a label on the front if you want to. I have a tutorial on that. But if you guys have any questions or you're confused about something in the tutorial, let me know in the comment section below. It does help out my channel to like this video. And if you guys want to see some more videos like this, be open to subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting every week as always. But anyways guys, this is Kaaaaaaad Daily, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.